MTN Sports. This is Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Welcome into the Bobcat Insider. Grace Lawrence here with Keaton Galogly. Keaton, a 2-0 week for the women, a 1-1 week for the men. But starting out with the women, we talked about who would step into that role, that gap. That's there when Caitlin Lamardo's out with injury.
Yeah, and it was really impressive to see the way everybody kind of stepped up. Obviously, Mara Dykstra was the headliner, but when we're watching the freshmen kind of develop the way they are right now, that's how you start to fill a hole that's sized of Caitlin Lamardo.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. All of those freshmen stepping up, but you mentioned Mara. That's who stood out to me the most. She led scoring in both games, 12 on Thursday, and then she actually out-rebounded her scoring, 14 rebounds, pretty phenomenal effort. And then on Saturday, tying her career high with 19 points. Just an overall phenomenal effort by the sophomore.
Yeah, good to see her bounce back after she had some injury issues a little bit earlier in the year, but the Cats are going to go deep on the women's side. Mara Dykstra is going to certainly be a big piece of it. Meanwhile, for the men, the 1-1 week kind of feels good from a 30,000-foot view, but that was a missed opportunity on Saturday against Portland State.
Definitely. It was definitely a collapse, and it seemed like the defensive intensity kind of whittled down in the stretch.
Yeah, and there was a few turnovers there and just not the execution you needed. And it was unfortunate, and I think really one of the big keys was Rob Ford fouling out at the end of that game. It was an 11-0 run for Portland State in that final 60 seconds, and a lot of that led to some turnovers. But overall, there were certainly a lot of positives as well, and we'll get into that with head coach Matt Logie coming up next on the Bobcat Insider.
Take coverage of the Cats with you. Download our app for your favorite mobile device today. Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
We're back on the Bobcat Insider. I'm Keaton Galogly alongside head coach Matt Logie, coming off a 1-1 week out to the Pacific Coast. Coach, first of all, some great environments this week. Sacramento State had their biggest crowd of the year. Portland State had one of their biggest crowds of the year. And I know some people want to talk maybe down a little bit about this trip out to Portland State and Sac State, but boy, those were some hostile environments this weekend.
Yeah, really tough places to play. And, Sac State first game with students back on campus. It's Greek night, so it's, over the fire code, standing room only. And I thought the environment was just electric, and our guys really stood the test in that opportunity. It was great to see.
Yeah, no doubt. And, it was an up and down weekend. I'm sure it was a cocktail of emotions for you this weekend between the Sac State win and the Portland State loss. Let's start with Rob Ford, though. I mean, the homecoming for him at Portland State, playing as hard as he did, had a couple of the big clinching shots to hold off Sac State late. Once again, I mean, we kind of sound like a broken record, but he's here giving you everything he's got.
No, Rob's playing the best basketball in the backcourt in the Big Sky right now, in my opinion. He's doing everything you can ask for. He's scoring the basketball, he's rebounding the basketball, he's getting steals, he's leading. His assist-to-turnover ratio is skyrocketing, and so just really proud of the work that he's put in to see these type of results, and it's been critical to our team's success.
Yeah, and it feels so gritty too. One of the rebounds I think sticks out is in that Sac State game, kind of late, and he ended up tipping the ball to himself 3 different times to set up that rebound. I mean, that's got to put a big smile on your face. Yeah,
when I saw him get his hand on it the first time, I'm like, all right, well, Rob's going to get this ball. He's just one of those guys that has a knack for it, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, and one of the other guys who was really a big motor down the stretch in that Sac State game was Sam Lecolot. He hit the big 3, he had a steal, he had another big bucket after that as well off a pass from Brandon Walker. We had kind of talked about it. It does feel like Sam Lecolot here has turned a little bit of a corner after that Montana game.
Yeah, no, he's been coming on, and it's been great to see because we knew he had it in him, this whole time, and so he's been getting more extended minutes and stepping up to the plate, making big plays, big shots. He's a guy that connects our offense really well. He's a very good passer, so it's been great to have that boost off the bench.
Yeah, and then him and Brandon Walker and Chika Nduka, it does seem like we're starting to see a little bit more of that emergence of that interior passing kind of in the paint. Is that what you're seeing as well from those 3 guys?
Yeah, I think they're getting more comfortable in our system and knowing how to find creases in the defense and when to duck in and when to space and how to play off one another.
Yeah, what are some of the keys when you're trying to make those types of passes? Because it's such tight windows, it's hard to see. Walker's getting doubled here and there. Lecolot's cutting in from the perimeter. What are some of the keys when you are passing efficiently in the paint and in that area of the floor?
Well, before you get to the passing part, you've got to have the spacing part. And so that's one of the things that we really focus a lot on in practice and in our habits and understanding, okay, when this situation presents itself, where does our offense need to be? And so that our our players with the basketball always know where their teammates are. And, Brandon's doing a better and better job of working through those double teams, and our offense around them, our players are spacing the floor properly and giving us a chance to find those openings.
Yeah, and so that's going to create a few easier buckets, and we've seen the offensive efficiency been really good for Montana State throughout this season, and particularly lately for the Bobcats. But, one of the things we are seeing is we've seen you guys play from ahead a lot, and then we see some of that offensive drought here and there. What are you attributing to some of that inconsistency on the offensive end?
Well, obviously when you have a lead, you get teams that are in more of a desperation mode. We've had some unique lineups out there due to foul trouble in those stretches, and quite frankly, in the Sac State game, our drought coincided with, I think, 4 or 5 missed layups at the rim that were pretty wide open, and so that's going to happen. We were getting great shots, we don't always make them, and so that's when your defense has to stand up. And I thought our defense really traveled well. And allowed us to kind of absorb that streak on Thursday night.
So got the win in that one. That was a hard-fought, gritty victory to get that one out to Portland State, and that was a game where you guys built up a lead, played from ahead a lot, even though it was a little back and forth, and in the end, that last 2 minutes, 60-second stretch, Portland State goes on the run, and they get the win. Now that you've had a chance to look at some of the tape and kind of settle in from that end of the game, what are some of the things that stick out and that need to change going forward?
Well, I think first off, our team had a great week of practice leading up. We were really focused on trying to get a road sweep. It was a huge goal of ours, and we were 78 out of 80 minutes away from doing that. And so I think we had a real, choice to make in how we respond to this weekend's events with our attitude. Do you focus on the 2 minutes? You need to a little bit because there's lessons there, right? But our attitude has to also acknowledge the fact that for 78 minutes we played our best basketball of the year on the road and built a 15-point lead against a team that was 9-3 in non-conference that just beat Montana by 25. And credit to Portland State, they made some shots that they haven't normally made this season to even keep the game close. And certainly, literally everything had to go wrong in those last 2 minutes. And so it's all about our response at this point. It's heartbreaking to lose a game like that because of the process and the work that our kids put in. And you want to see them have that reward of going into that visiting locker room and really owning the effort and the excellence that they put on display for a long time. And so it's part of the growth process for us. And we're going to bounce back from it. We have a great opportunity on Thursday night. And, we've got to focus on the 78 out of 80 minutes that looked like Bobcat basketball this week because they're growing at an exponential rate. I don't think any team has improved more in the Big Sky Conference throughout this year than ours. And we're certainly, not done yet.
Yeah, it's moving in the right direction. We're going to keep it going. And, you did mention some of the lessons you want to pull out of those last 2 minutes. What are some of the key things you're going to harp on your team in terms of the lessons you learned from those last few minutes?
Well, I think there are a couple instances we could have been a little stronger with the basketball. Maybe take one less dribble and chin it, be strong, wait for them to foul, look for an open teammate. We had a timeout that we could have used in an emergency situation. Small lessons like that. Defending the three-point line was probably the biggest miscue defensively, just forcing them to get inside the three-point line and have to chip away more in that possession game when you have the lead. So yeah, tremendous lessons for us. And if we learn those lessons and they attribute to us winning a Big Sky Conference tournament game in a similar form or fashion, then it's worth it. Then our medicine worked. But certainly at the time, you feel ill.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, going to take those lessons to the brick on Thursday with undefeated Eastern Washington coming into town. They've been one of the juggernauts in the conference so far this year. What are you guys going to have to do to take down and hand Eastern Washington their first loss?
Yeah, well, they're a very balanced team. They've got tremendous depth and experience that's returned, and they're very skilled. They've got a lot of different guys that can shoot the basketball. They post up everybody from their point guards through their centers. They run everybody off screens on the perimeter from their point guards through their centers. And so it's just a very unique footprint defensively and one that has obviously had a lot of success this year. So we're excited for the opportunity. Hopefully Bobcat Nation comes out strong. We need that home court momentum and environment that we just fought against this last weekend, and should be a great opportunity for us.
All right, the men are at home this weekend against Eastern Washington and Idaho. All right, we're taking a break, but when we come back, Grace Lawrence is breaking down a 2-0 weekend for the women with head coach Tricia Binford on the Bobcat Insider.
There's more coverage of the Bobcats online anytime at montanasports.com. Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Welcome back into the Bobcat Insider. Grace Lawrence here with head coach Trisha Binford. Thanks for joining me this morning.
It's good to be here, Grace.
It's definitely good to be here after a 2-0 week, I'm sure. Talk to me about the adversity your team has battled through to come out with the 2-0 week after it.
Yeah, it's the next person stepping up and rising to the occasion. And we were down 9 that week, and we had some freshmen really play some big roles for us. And I thought our veterans really led the way.
Definitely at 1.5 freshmen on the court. What's the conversation with your younger core as they're checking into that game or even before the game?
You know, it's just, it's a lot of quick fixes, right? It's a lot of quick learning as far as shot selection, erasing a couple errors on the defensive end, really grooming them from the last game. And I thought we adjusted very well in the Saturday game compared to the Thursday game of making those kinds of adjustments. But at the same time, they're sponges right now. They're responding to everything. We're super proud of them.
I know last week we talked about who would fill the role of Caitlin when it came to her shooting, her high percentage scoring, and the rebounding. And it seems like Mara stepped right into a pretty dominant role over the 2 games. Can you talk to me about how she was able to rise to the occasion?
Well, I think Mara is one of those selfless kids that wants to distribute the ball to everybody else. It's a little bit unusual that you have a forward be your leading assist player. And we always have to tell the entire group in front of her that we want her taking more shots. She's that kid. So I thought she really responded to that. As far as coming from the Thursday game, we had some really dry quarters and some of the shot selection, and going into Friday about how do we find more shots for Amira, we find more shots for a Taylor and Maddie Jackson, some of our veterans, and she really responded the entire week as far as owning, knowing that we needed it.
Another pretty great distributor is Natalie, a freshman. Can you talk to me about her connection with Mara? It's on full display on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie's kind of one of those kids that we're not treating as a freshman anymore. Really running the show for us on both ends of the floor, and Mara's kind of up there in the backcourt with her. So those two are playing off of each other quite a bit, even breaking presses. And then she's one of the first people that she's seeing off of a screen action, and obviously looking to get her going because we know she's such an important piece. But Natalie's really starting to grow as far as who to find touches for, and that's a great step for her.
Is she able to kind of take the other freshmen under her wing? Malia stepped up so big the past 2 games. What is she like as a leader with, the kids her age?
Yeah, I think her leadership is just kind of setting the tone and showing the example of how hard we're going to guard on the defensive end. And there was definitely a lot of plays where those two were on the floor together, and you had a kind of a dual splash defensive lineup there with the explosiveness and the aggressiveness, and they just played off of each other extremely well. But in huddles, point guards are constantly talking, seeing the things that they need to see. Devin Perez on her staff oversees the guard play, so those conversations are continuing to be had. They're always watching film together, but it's really been fun to see kind of her help some other kids blossom as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the Sac State game, getting kind of close there at the end. What was key to closing that game out at home?
Well, obviously, you put a Maddie Jackson to the line. That certainly helps, kind of clinch a few free throws down the stretch. But I think more importantly, it was just the fourth quarter got out of hand. I think the kids thought the game was done, and that's a learning lesson for them that the game's never over on either side of that. And so you got to keep being aggressive, attack-minded, but also doing it the right way. Got a little bit sloppy, had some turnovers in that stretch, had some bad shots in that stretch, and veterans kind of stepped up, closed the deal, and then we learned from it on Friday. Definitely.
What did you really focus on in practice to then come out a big 71-50 win against Portland State, pack the place in pink game on Saturday?
We kind of went into it about dominating the paint. We knew this was a game that we had to get extra rebounds. We were pretty cold from the three-point line on Thursday, so we're like, all right, if shots aren't falling, even though if those are good ones, we need to make sure we're finding extra possessions and we're owning the paint. And I think that might have been one of our best paint production games that we've had. Really did a great job, the team overall, just finding mid-post touches against the zone, going through our post play. We got Jack in there, inserted at times as well. They took to heart what shot selection we needed to look for first, going inside out, and we really got great shots, but we also got great second chances, and there's Mara Dykstra on display, as well as a lot of other players.
And also Taylor, she stepped up so big in both those games as well, just trailing Mara in, points per game last week. So how have you seen her grow into a leader this year?
Well, I think just kind of doing what's ever needed, right? She's playing the hat of if we're not ready for practice, she's going to let the team know that we got to change the preparation there. But she also knows what it looks like to train like a champion every day. She's one of the first people in the gym. She's a volume kid. She's always going to get her extra shots. Sometimes you need to challenge her to take a day off to rest her body. But really, she's established herself as far as scoring. She can score in a lot of different ways. You can pull her out to three. She's very good in the face-up, but she's really added the back to the basket. And that's been a key for us with not having Alexi. We need somebody to own that area for us, and really Taylor has stepped up into that role.
Getting back into the freshman class, when you were out there recruiting them, did you know how special they were going to be? I'm sure you didn't know that they were going to have to step up this early in their careers, but they have, and it seems like they're taking advantage of that.
Well, that's an entire staff, right? So you got to give your staff the credit on some of these kids that the staff has found. Sunny Smallwood, who's been with this program as a recruiting coordinator, she's probably seen these kids even more than I have. And, one of the question marks always coming in is, okay, so they compete hard in a game mode. I hear from coaches, but how are they in a practice? How are they in the grind? How are they in adversity? And this team has really stepped up. Those are things that you don't always know 100%, but they're sure producing, and we're super proud of them. But I also think they have tremendous examples by their veterans. So this is a team that I think one of the reasons why they're doing it is they're extremely close, and they've worked really hard at that.
Definitely, we can see how close they are on the court. It definitely shines through. And this week, getting back to another road test, a big one against Eastern Washington. What are you honing in on this week as you head to the Eagles? Well,
I think our kids learned a valuable lesson. We go on the road at Idaho State. We really got smacked, to be quite honest. There's no better description as far as the rebounding category. And then we come home and we control possessions, so we've got to find a way to control some possessions away from the field house. And, that's the bottom line going into this week against one of the top teams in this conference. They're pretty seasoned. They're very, very veteran oriented. They're on their home floor, and they crash from everywhere. So the rebounds are going to be extremely important.
How do you prepare for a road trip in a team that has struggled on the road? Is it bringing in the speakers and putting up the crowd noise? What is it?
Well, Grace, if I figured that out, I would have had it done it by now. I think it's just a matter of matching the energy for a practice that we do here. And then we got to create that energy in our huddles, created in our locker room, created every single time out. But we really just got to challenge the effort piece on the glass and just where we're going to put our focus going into those matchups.
And then ending the road trip at Idaho, what stands out most about them come Saturday?
Well, definitely a lot of new faces. This coaching staff's doing a really good job with their action, and they've had some adversity with some injuries as well, and so they have some kids stepping up into that regard. And the biggest thing is I just want to continue focusing on us and possessions and really going in to this battle knowing it's hard to win away from home, and you're going to have to be on all cylinders on both ends.
Definitely, we're looking forward to it. Coming up, me and Keaton will be previewing those games, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Welcome back into the Bobcat Insider. Grace Lawrence here with Keaton Galogly. Keaton, after talking with Binford, that freshman class that she and her coaching staff recruited coming into this season, they're special.
Yeah, it is really fun to watch them not only play, but just continue to develop. And, you think about all that that was lost with Montana State, some changes in the coaching staff. This is really a turning of the page for this women's program right now in Coach Binford's 19th year. And when we say she is certainly a candidate for Big Sky Coach of the Year, it's the development of this freshman class that stands out the most.
Yeah, I'm sure there's almost no team in the country that faces the adversity they do. And it started, months ago when Natalie Picton, a true freshman, had to step into a starting point guard role. And she distributes the ball better than anybody on that court, especially with Mara, that Canadian connection. I think that's my new nickname for it.
I think it's a great nickname for her, and it's been really a lot of fun to watch the way that she's gone out and just seeing the effort and the energy and the motor from a Dykstra, from a Picton and beyond. And that's how you continue to have this type of sustained success. Now, on the men's side, a missed opportunity, like we said, on Saturday, but boy, this team is close. I mean, that was 78 minutes of tremendous basketball.
We talk about improvement on the women's side. Just like Logie said, you see it on the men's side as well. Those first-year Big Sky players stepping into these big roles.
Yeah, you just got to trust the process, continue to enjoy the ride. I know it's a roller coaster, but with the lows come some highs, and you'll have an opportunity for a couple of highs this weekend with Eastern Washington and Idaho on the slate. Men are at home, women are on the road. So we'll see you at the Brick, and we'll see you next week on the Bobcat Insider.